Hey, what up, everybody? This is Chris from T3 Handicapping, and I am here to bring you the late pick five on Thursday, November 18th, 2021. Hey, I just want to thank everybody who tuned in yesterday. Great responses to the late pick five video from Churchill on Wednesday, so I thought I'd get out here and do another one for Thursday and just keep this rolling. So let's go ahead and let's jump into it. When it comes to following us, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. First of all, you can always go into our website, t3handicapping.weebly.com, and there you can purchase our monthly memberships, and that will get you access to everything. Right now, it's just $5 for the month of November. You can basically get all the rest of our cards through November. Today, on Thursday, we're going to have Gulfstream, we'll have Aqueduct, we'll have Churchill, and then we will pick up Del Mar this weekend as well. So you get all that. This is a great time to jump in if you're looking for a little extra handicapping product. $5 gets you the rest of the month. And then after that, we'll go $10 for 30 days, or there will be an annual membership as well if you want to get access to it for a year. So, my goal ultimately is to put these picks in your hands so that you can use them. I know we're already fighting a big takeout, so the more cost effective I can make handicapping materials for you, the better off I think everybody is. So, with that being said, if you want to find me in other locations, obviously you got YouTube right here. You can find me on Facebook. That's T3 Handicapping. And then you can find me on Twitter at Handicapping T3, and I try and update those channels pretty regularly as well. So lots of different ways to find me, but let's go ahead and let's jump right into things today here. Once again, when I was looking at the cards today, I really liked best of all the late pick five. You can see here I have a much clearer picture, I think, of tomorrow than I did if you watched yesterday's video. There were a lot more horses in the A line yesterday. Today, I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on things before scratches come out. You can see just based on the algorithm and what it spits out, the all-A ticket is actually quite narrow and pretty affordable for even the most modest budget. So I got a couple things here that I like. Mostly I've got a bad favorite. And anytime I have a bad favorite, I start looking at sequences that I can really play there. Yesterday, our big stand was against some of the top horses in one of the races. I think it was race number 5, and Chakra was the closest to winning the race in second, but we got our price home. Unfortunately, Pneumatic just didn't fire. So let's see what we can do today. Let's see if we can bring the same approach and just connect a little differently. So I think the approach yesterday was great. I like the approach. I wouldn't change that piece of it. But now we just have to get a little racing luck on our side as well. So let's start with race number 5. This is a class level 18. If you haven't used our product before, pretty simply, the higher the number, the worse the horse. So 18 for Churchill isn't great. That's a pretty low level of horse. We're going 8 furlongs, and this looks to be a moderate pace. You can see that from the deer up in the upper right-hand corner. I really like a horse in this spot, and that is the number 5, Opus Equus. I have this one. It's a front-running type, which has been so good at Churchill. I like that it's got a lot of these bottom categories, which I take a lot of stake in. Obviously, good connections. It's 50% in the money at the distance, which is important to me as well. Then you've got race flow and pace. I think when you see a horse that comes in and has tops in these 3 categories, it makes them very difficult to beat regardless of speed figure, because that means they're going to be out there early, and it doesn't look like the pace is going to be able to get by them too easily. So I definitely want to use the number 5 very heavily. 9 to 5 would be my price needed for a win bet. I do also think that Commodore Perry and Rebopper are interesting at prices as low as 5 to 2. Now, unfortunately, I am taking the top 3 on the board, but in pick 5, sometimes you got to advance even with short price horses. I just think those are the logical upsetters, but I do think that the number 5 looks really tough to beat in this spot. Moving on to race number 6 now. We've started off pretty thin. You guys, I have to be honest with you, this is a situation where I flat out just am trying to get past performance of my own out of my head. On numbers, American Tattoo looks to have this field, at least on my numbers, looks to have this field over a barrel, and is normally one that at 3.5 to 1, at 7 to 2, if I got anything close to that price, I would be just hammering, especially over Little Menace, who I think definitely is in with a chance, but I don't think is as good as, essentially 9 to 5. That being said, American Tattoo and I have been in a zigzag relationship from the beginning. Every time I like this horse, I bet it. It does not run, and then I go against it and it has a decent performance. So on paper, to me, it looks like this is one that is probably undervalued at the windows, and normally one that I would single, but I've got too many battle scars from this one to go ahead and just be singled to it. Now, gigging is an interesting one. 5 to 2, obviously well thought of. Shows up in many of our categories here in the top five. The thing that's concerning for me is obviously we know it's a front running style. We know it's not, at least on paper, going to get all that hot up front. Potentially American Tattoo getting a lone speed. And so the question becomes, is 5 going to be able to get the race flow? You can see here that our pace projector shows that no, there's going to be too much for gigging to do late and isn't going to be able to get there in the late stages of the race. As I've mentioned before with closers, you want to make sure that they're at least somewhere near the pace if they're not going to show up in the race flow as a closer. I don't see that here, so I'm taking a hard stand against. The one horse that I did think was rather interesting is John's Rock, the number one. John's Rock I have as a fair value at 8 to 1, and that's one that I would be looking to play a win wager on if the horse is at 8 to 1 or higher on the board, which I think is very possible given the top three. I might use that horse as well as more of a B type on a pick five ticket, especially since we're going to probably be pretty skinny throughout the ticket. That's a place where I can create some separation and get good value. Moving on to race number 7, I really I struggle with this one because I think that the favorite is bad in terms of value, but I also think the favorite is 100% correct. And when you look at pick five sequences, sometimes you have to know when to take an undervalued favorite. If it's going to help you cash the ticket, sometimes there's a time and a place for that. I don't like to make a habit of it because I think it's the quickest way to the poorhouse. But if you feel like you can get value somewhere else, and we are going to in just a moment, then I think it's one that you have to be able to say, how can I just survive this leg and move on? And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to use Bag Boss. You can see 4 to 5 on the morning line. Frankly, I want this horse at 2 to 1 if I'm going to place a win bet. I'm not going to even sniff 2 to 1. Nevertheless, this horse is going to be kind of the crux of my wagers, and I'm going to just hope that the chalk wins in this spot and get value elsewhere. The other one that I am kind of interested in is Paquito Man. I love to see a horse that's rated that highly, who's I know is going to be forwardly placed. You can see a lot of these horses are unknown horses. We just don't really know what they're going to present. But I like that this horse has shown some early pace and could get the best of the race flow as well. So I think that's something that's very important to look at. If you look at the previous races that horse has run, it's also been in the top class. So it's run up against some of the better horses here. The speed numbers are light, and I'll grant that compared to our favorite, and that's why he's the favorite. But overall, I think Paquito Man is one that's certainly interesting. I might use in some exactas underneath because I think you're going to get value there. The 4-5, the 4-8, 4-7, 4-6, those exacta combinations are going to be hit pretty hard. I think the 4-2 is going to sneak through, and you might be able to cash a nice exacta, maybe pay for part of your pick five ticket or the whole thing, perhaps, and then be ready to just basically play the pick five on house money. I don't know if that'll actually happen, but that's kind of the way I'm seeing it, and probably the way I'm seeing my play. I will use this horse underneath, or I will use it in more of a backup role on my pick five tickets as well. This is the race where I'm going to try and get some value. I really don't like Frost Point. Again, you have a closer. Now, the one thing I will say that's a little scary about this closer is you do have a unique situation where early pace numbers actually suggest that it can hang with these types. And so when you have that situation, that means that this closer may not be closing and maybe more of a presser or a mid-pack horse in today's event. And that's concerning. And then you see the kick for home should not be a problem for this horse. That being said, I like the horse at 3 to 1. I don't like the horse at 1.6 or 8 to 5. To me, that's just not good value on that horse. I don't like closers coming from Churchill, even though it's possible. I think this horse can win, but this is where I'm going to separate. I've basically staked my flag on a heavy favorite in the last leg. I need to create value. This is where I'm going to do it. Now, Misty Vale doesn't create a ton of value for me, but it creates value in the sense that it is off from the odds. So 5 to 2 on the morning line, I like the horse down to 3 to 2, and certainly would be worthy of a win bet if it's above that 3 to 2 margin. I really think that's the most likely winner, but I do like some horses at a price. I actually really like Suki. Suki is going to be forwardly placed, comes in actually pretty good form based on our numbers. Obviously has good connections, has been in the money a decent number of times. These are still fairly lightly raced horses, so um, I'm not super concerned about that just because it's a smaller sample size. But I think this horse rates in a couple of sneaky categories where 10 to 1 could be a real steal, and I think this could be an upset possibility. The other one that I like is the number 5, Tell Me on a Sunday. This is going to be a front running type. Should be definitely near the lead and should get the best of the race flow late. So basically, I have using the early pace numbers, and then we would expect some late pace to play a major role. And I have this horse being able to hold on and outlast even Misty Vale. So I love the price I'm getting on that one. I'm hoping for the 3-5. I'm backing up kind of with the 4 because I think the 4 is a viable winner. I'm just not convinced that Frost Point wins. If Frost Point wins, that's fine. I won't be terribly shocked, but I also won't be cashing tickets. I'm not going to hedge just to include this is my stand, and this is where I'll be. So no Frost Point for me, but Misty Vale, Tell Me on a Sunday, and Suki. Foolery is another one that I just chose not to use. Again, I can't take a closer who doesn't show up on pace and doesn't show up on race flow. That's why I skipped over those two and came down here. Again, the one scares me, but not enough to have me go. And especially with the sequence being what it is, I just don't see any way you can make that profitable. Now we come home with an interesting race. I had a real hard time with this one. One of the things that I will find frequently, especially in these big races with larger fields, is you'll get kind of a scatter plot of horses. You'll see a lot of the same horses, but it makes it really hard to narrow down in this situation who you really like. You can see I kind of went off here. I mean, I ended up using the top 3 horses, but I used them in a very different order. I like the number 3 the best, and that is Dr. Nash. Dr. Nash is 7-2. It's a tepid morning line favorite. I think that's a miscalculation. I think this horse should be 5-2. I think at post time we could be somewhere more in that range, but certainly one that I'm looking for is going to sit sort of that mid-pack trip. I'm a little concerned that with our turtle icon up in the upper right, we're just not going to get a ton of pace. Class level 16, these are not going to be horses that love passing, so that's a little bit concerning, and that's why my second selection I went with the number 10, who I have as a 4-to-1 price. Morning line is 5-to-1, so we'll probably be in a pretty decent shape. Now you can see, according to our letter grades, this horse should be a B horse, a B plus. I like it as an A because right now I don't have any other confirmed speed. We know that the 3 could be a little bit quicker, and in fact, I do see a scenario where the 3 ends up on the lead here because I just think the race is going to be slow. That being said, I like the 10 because I know the 10 is going to be contesting the lead, and if they go out for an early kind of dawdle, I think this one could be dangerous late. I do think the 5 is definitely undervalued at 9-2 right now. I have that horse as being value up to 5-2, and then the number 7, Napa Valley, currently at 6-1. I have value to 7-2. So those are there. Those are kind of going to be my top selections. This is probably where I'll back up. And I don't know if I'm gonna run a true saver ticket and try and hit the pick 5. Sometimes when I have a pyramid like this, where I start off with just a very tight opinion in the first leg and I kind of trickle out, so I kind of create a pyramid as we go through the races. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to go with the pyramid in the pick 5 and then wait and see what happens in the pick 4. And if things have completely fallen apart, then sometimes I will just come back with the same pyramid. If things are looking good, I might come back underneath with a pick 4 that now gives me the option to get some of these other horses in. This was an interesting race because beyond these 4, I didn't really love anybody, but it's hard to love anybody with this many unknowns because horses are going to jump up. There's a pretty clear distinction, and I do think sometimes, especially in these types of races where you have so many unknowns, there is value to be placed in the price. Not to say that horses don't get overlooked, but a lot of the determining where these horses fall on the odds board and where they eventually land from a money standpoint will come from people who are in the know about how the horse is training. To me, this line here is very interesting. When I see one horse at 5-1 and then the next horse doesn't show up again until 15-1, that tells me there's probably a pretty clear cut and dry talent difference between horses at this level. For that reason, even though I think they're bad value right now, I might throw the 1 and the 8 on there, but like I said, I'm going to be pretty heavy through these A's. The two horses that I do find kind of interesting, and I'm not sure that I will even use them at any point in a picks sequence, but I would be more inclined to use them as sort of interesting horses, maybe in the second position of a trifecta. I kind of like Major Lloyd a little bit, and I kind of like Tis a Big Mick. And basically, the reason for that is they're just right where they should be in the odds. At 15 to 1, I don't think there's anything miraculous about them. You can see here we just ran out of horses that even had records at the distance, so we just ended up with a couple zeros making the board. You got to be aware of that sometimes. But as you know, as I go through and I look at this, I just think, okay, we don't really, if we get down to these unknowns, who are the ones I like the most? And these two horses came out to C letter grades, which I think is really positive, and the price is going to be right on them. I don't think Stavanger and Requisition. I don't think the price is right unless I see anybody taking crazy money that suggests somebody knows something. For me, Major Lloyd and Big Mick, like those horses at 15 to 1, I can take a flyer on, maybe throw a win bet on, and see what happens, or maybe even across the board. Key them, like I said, second place in a try or third place in a try. They should be able to infuse some value into a race that looks like it could go a lot of different ways. I'm definitely siding with experience, though. That is for sure here. So that's kind of how I see the late pick five. I don't think it's a ticket that you're going to have to spend a lot of money on, particularly if you have a couple of those spots. If you're more confident in American Tattoo than I am, or you're totally against American Tattoo or anyone within the sequence, you can kind of pick and choose your spots and make, I think, really decent value on a very small ticket. So I'm very excited about the pick five tomorrow. I think it's an opportunity that we don't often see where you can have pretty narrow opinions and maybe really attack some kill tickets and try and really maximize your value at just hitting multiple times on your strongest opinion. So best of luck to everyone at Churchill Downs tomorrow or today, depending on when you're watching this. I wish you the best of luck. Remember that on our website, we also do have in the members portal access to Gulfstream Park as well as Aqueduct, and we will be adding Del Mar when they kick off their weekend racing on Friday. So go to the website, purchase the membership to get access to those. Otherwise, enjoy the handicapping of the late pick five. Good luck to you and cash those tickets.